What's up, everyone? Pittsburgh White Shorts coming at you with another deck tech. It's been a while, but it's going to be 5 different deck techs today. Yeah, maybe a little bit more than 5. And I'm joined today by Jason and Dan, both from Jersey.
Yep.
And we are going to run through some of these new Quints Premium Booster decks, how you can enhance them with the new cards. It's not that many cards, but some of them are very important, specifically for Miku, I think, is like the biggest overall winner. Obviously, Nino got a bunch of good stuff because she always does. But every girl gets a lot except for Itsuki, so we're going to get her out of the way first. Itsuki is definitely the biggest loser when it comes to the premium booster, but you got a couple things here. The big thing is they reprinted that PR 4K box topper that everybody was freaking out to get, even though it wasn't really that important to the deck. You can just slot that in now. That's this first card here. But there's a couple other cards you might want to splash in. There is a reprint of the Climax swap. It's the same as the Ichika one, but this one is green, which is good for your color. And there's also a helmet, which is this last one here. You can sack it, ditch a card, grab anything. You're playing 8 doors, wasn't really that big of a deal. You could also salvage cards all over the place, but just another option there. And you also have a 1/1 3K counter that bottom decks itself. Obviously, you want to kick Axe, might be relevant for your power lines. A lot of these shells that we're going to show today are just going to be showing off the cards that you could include. Maybe you don't want to play all these cards. Maybe they don't really have a place in the deck, but specifically for Itsuki, there were so few. The deck, obviously, if you know anything about this deck, it's going to look almost exactly the same. And this deck has been covered on the channel before, so we won't waste too much time on it. Any other notes on Itsuki, guys? I think that's like basically it. There's not much.
Not even special. You went from a 1-0 helmet to a 0-0 helmet. Very cool.
Yeah, because you have the crack.
You had the one with all their names. Oh no. You
had
the
too. Yeah.
helmet with all their names, and then also.
You can also play that card.
Base.
Yeah, it does kick your acts as well, which can be relevant.
I mean, it always did. It was always good. That one was probably a little bit better than this one.
Yeah,
because that one also had an act on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Itsuki suck, unfortunately.
Counter's got a soul trigger. That's nice.
It does have a soul trigger.
For all my choice triggers.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of choice,
mode.
We got Ichika. Ichika definitely came out ahead, but the deck looks pretty much the same because we mostly just jammed 4 of this new 1/0 in here. What this card does is it is a choice trigger when you have a choice in your climax zone. So as long as you have a climax down in this deck, this card in your deck is a choice. To go along with that, we have the level 0 Nino that can shuffle back cards. And we are including the one of the Ichika Riki and the Ichika Brainstorm, which can pick up this card earlier in the game because the best time to use it is going to be on your first deck. When you get to the bottom, shuffle back a bunch of choices, slam your 1/0 combo again, maybe on a second level 1 turn or something like that, or your first if you're lucky enough. Shuffle those back, get a bunch of extra stock, and then go into your early play plan as usual. But this one's looking to be pretty strong. I'm a pretty big believer in Ichika. I think this deck is really good.
The choice gives you a lot of extra stock that you didn't have before. Like, I feel like playing Ichika before, it was like, if you went into your level 2 with like 5 stock, you were feeling pretty good. Now you're expecting to hit like 5-6 stock going into your level 2 every game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes this deck generates 5 stock in a turn.
And then you just get it all back with the early play combo, because that's the best part of the deck.
Yep.
Is just slamming that thing, rip a bunch of cards out of your deck. But overall game plan, overall game plan is going to be mostly the same for Ichika. It's just going to be juiced up by, if you can get that play going, you get an opportunity to nab that Nino, you open it, you hold on to it, you bounce it back, because obviously you can't use it later in the game because the early play requires a full field of Ichika. However, or a full field of Quints just in general, and that card is going to bounce back to your hand. So it's only going to be really usable for that first deck play, but that is so strong that we're definitely going to play for it when we can. Doesn't really hurt the deck to toss it in. So,
longtime viewers of the channel will appreciate that card is the same card as the Anger from Mirrorverse, and it's messed up in that deck, and it's just as messed up in this one, since your level 1 combo has Twin Drive, right?
Yeah, you Twin Drive. And reveal your top card too, so like
it might even be more messed up here because your EP is more expensive.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, moving on to Nino. There's a couple ways you can take this. I'm gonna put the new one first. Jason, Dan, you guys have played this a hell of a lot more than me. Tell me how this deck's different.
So I've actually been the one I think that's been mostly interested in this finisher. This is the deck that Japan decided to play after the ban list that they got, where the 12 standby Nino got put to 2 of. So this was like their fallback, and I actually think that was one of those discoveries that just made a good deck as opposed to being like a cope, where some people might tell you it's a cope, but I think this deck is actually really good. You basically just beeline a bunch of consistency cards, so you notice you're just playing like 4 ofs and 2 ofs of all your like zeros. You got in the premium booster, you get a Foolish Burial. On play, search any character in your waiting room. I think I searched Nino. This one might just search Nino. And send it to your waiting room. And it also has on death pay to salvage one, which is actually pretty insane because now it's also plussing 0. And that comes up a lot where you'll like Foolish Burial a card, overplay it, and then just salvage the card you dumped. And then you have obviously the Nino Ruizer from before, where you just get to clock 1, search anything. You got a check 3, add 1 brainstorm, which means having your climax is insanely easy compared to before. Then it's just the same usual suspects. Notably, we are on Neg Soul choice now instead of the Ironwood, because this card just works really well. We're playing a more like board-based defensive plan, so it just kind of fits better. Normal suspects everywhere else. You got an on-name memory kick counter now. We picked up the burn counter. And then there's a 2-1 that goes along with the movie 3-2 that makes it into an actual finisher. No CX finisher. That just says it gives it an extra 500 power. It's a level X. And then whenever that Nino cancels, you can pay 2, discard 2 Quints to cancel burn 4. So you have just a way to just kind of win board and then just swing for 3s. And then if they stick and you can like present any amount of real damage, you can start burning for 4s off of it as well. It's actually, I think this deck's really good. It just feels very nice that you're not beholden to like a climax to win the game off of or try to like end the game. You're just playing for the best board possible. And I think especially with Slime getting weaker, it's really hard for a lot of decks to contest this board in this deck in English if you're not playing Card Titan.
Yeah, what's really nice about the way that this deck plays is that 3-2 Nino is a global 15, as well as being like part of your climax combo for your tempo plays at level 2. And so it kind of combines like 2 different cards that the set 2 Nino deck was using into like one that just slants the deck in this more like defensive position where like your memory kick counter is a little bit more real since your whole board is going to be a lot bigger than you would be in the 12 standby deck.
Yeah, you also get to play early plays, which I don't think 12 standby plays as comfortably, just because you have more room. You could also look into playing the decompression tools, where like the Icy Tail 3-2, where this card or like some of the EPs are. I don't think that's also wrong. It's just like preference.
Yeah, that Icy Tail is notably on name now too, so you have some options.
I know sitting across from this deck, it's like it can when this deck hits, it can be absolutely miserable to sit across from this thing.
This
you never win board ever, ever.
It just exists, and then you're sitting there. You're like, if they ever decide that I canceled and they didn't like that I canceled, they just shove you.
Yeah, they just wait and go all in, and then they
have Neg Soul.
Yeah, being able to sit on the bracelet is like is so gross. But
yep.
And the burn 2 counter for a little extra push. You can either start a finishing turn by using that on like the last attack of your opponent's turn, or hold it and make them like make awkward plays to get extra heals or whatever if you don't want they don't want to die on the next turn.
Yeah, very very real, because this deck will actually probably expect its opponent to try to finish the game before it does. So like if they do their finisher turn, you live, you swing back at them, there's a real chance that they can't play more healers after that. So if they're in a position to lose the game off burn counter, it's like, it's good, it's real.
Yeah, it's a burn 2, right? Yeah,
yes.
A burn 2.
Pay 1, ditch 1, burn 2.
Pretty good.
It's a really very good card.
Yeah, the other way you can obviously play it is the traditional quote-unquote 12 standby, where when you have the Nino finisher climax in play, the 3-2 Nino finisher, which we have at 4 here in English, gains the standby trigger. So you can shuffle that back in, do a bunch of crazy plays with that, build a big board all in one shot. This is looking like the same level 0 line, but like the same strategy. So we use that consistency to add bracelet back.
Yeah, if you're opting for bracelet, still, this is how the deck is gonna look. Obviously, you know, Rico doesn't let you. Rico is the one that lets you flex one ofs, which is I know how Dan opts to play it. This is like the standard of like how I would expect somebody to play this deck at a regional. This is like the easiest way. They're not really trying to go outside the box, right? You pick the combo and you just meld your level 3 game more into how to win with the 12 standby and how to build the 12 standby board. But I don't know if you want to pull up Dan has his list. I put it in the chat if you wanted to pull that up and just show there is a difference in how he chooses.
I'll
to
include
play
it in the
which I think is
description.
cool.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Dan, if you want to talk about your version though, I think your version is also a neat way to play it.
I might
Yeah,
pull
it's
it up
nice.
here.
There's a lot of like unexplored territory with the 12 standby since like this like unique
But then it gets-
intersection of product releases and ban list timing just made it so we ended up with this particular choose restriction on all these cards. The Rico is an insane card. It's a similar card as the one in Ruby, right?
Yes,
Where
it is
you
exactly.
get to double filter, so you can start just cutting extra copies of certain cards like the check 5 deck speed tool and the submarine, because you know you're always going to have access to those. Notably, I also go down to like one brainstormer because of how full your back row tends to get. And in addition, some of these on-name reprints help you keep your like waifu conditions, so that can enable things like the 2/4 event that heals 2. I tried that. I haven't really been in love with it so far because one bouncer can kind of ruin your day. It's the same kind of thing as the burn counter that requires a full field. But the reprints of the Ichika that changes into any Quint in your hand, and the Miku Icy Tail that also searches one, these were really good cards that probably should have been Nino's in the first place. Maybe not the Icy Tail, but that bouncer definitely has Nino written all over it. And they also have you like have a little bit of extra push with the extra non-climax combo effects there.
Yeah, I pulled it up on screen here. I'm taking a look at it. More one-ofs, because obviously you have the Rico, and then you have the event here. And you're still squeezing in the movie package, too, which is nice.
Yeah, it's such low commitment, and again, you just have, like, a bunch more finishers all of a sudden. Actually, I played this deck at Locals yesterday, and did not resolve the level 3 combo while it was on the field. Used the standard, like, combo to shuffle back a couple copies of it and build my own board at level 2 there, but yeah, mostly just burning 4 with the movie combo.
Yeah, movie combo's good.
Yeah, the movie combo is definitely, it's just like so big. I think people just think of Nino, they think of this 3/2 shovel back, and they kind of like go like, I just want to play that, and they don't want to.
It's not that big, right? Like realistically, unless you have 2 of it or you have the level X, the card's actually not that big. But it doesn't buff itself. It only buffs other.
Yeah, only buffs other. You need multiples.
But once you get, you know, this deck expects to get 2 because it gets pick trigger when you stand it. So like the reality is you've potentially standby to 2/1 the turn before into the back row, and then you go like summon 1, trigger summon 1, and now you have the board. And now you're like, all right, 14Ks, deal with it, and you're doing it.
Yeah, you have so many pick trigger effects combined with shuffling back the extra standby Ninos that like, yeah, you get it off the brainstorm, you get it off the check 5. The Rugerid clone just has it. The bounce back gives it. So you're, if you're trying to do it, you're standbying like 3 to 4 times a turn.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I like playing at Locals. You just go like, play a climax. Okay, bounce, give pick trigger here. Brainstorm, give pick trigger here. Stand by the 3/2, untap it, gets pick trigger, and your opponent's just like,
Check 2, girl. Check 2.
Yeah,
girl.
just start ripping cards off the top of your deck. Like, yeah, this one has it 3 times, so I'm just gonna dig like 4 cards real quick.
It's good. I love this deck, man. Even if they're like slightly different, at least the way that like, they're fundamentally the same, and it's a good old time. I miss having this deck be a real deck.
Moving on to Miku, this is a deck that I've only sat across from a handful of times, and it's just tried to icy tail me. Jason, you know about this deck. Tell me what this deck got.
So I've been playing this deck since the movie set because I expected this PB to get announced way earlier than it did. In the premium booster specifically, you actually got multiple new cards. So you got a clean cut, which is the Yukata Nino, the Yukata Miku. It's just a 3k clean cut. It's fine. It's just because you have like back row you actually care about in this deck, so they're worth saving. You notably have the new Brainstorm. I realized I forgot to put the CX swapper in this list, so that's my bad. You do get a CX swapper that is costless between both of these pants. That should be in this deck. Where you could put it like anywhere. It literally doesn't matter. Just pick your favorite zeros. Maybe like cut a Ricky or something. They're not that good. But yeah, you have the new Brainstorm. The new Brainstorm actually buffs your 3-2 combo and just says when your 3-2 mills, it'll mill +1 card as long as there's only one that's on the board. So makes it a 5-card Icy Tail, and obviously the Icy Tail only has to ping one, hit one climax to be a burn one, which is pretty good as long as you have the amount of markers you need, which is free. We got a new 1-0 that we can play that is just a level 0 bomb with Ditch a CX Search 1, which is good because this deck kind of lacks deck access, actually. So having something that does it is really nice. New 2-1 combo as well. That is just, it's like plus 9k on turn. And on play, or while there's a marker on turn or whatever, and then on play it markers your 1-0 combo under it. And then it is climax combo, sack the climax to draw 2, drop 2, and then stock 2 from your waiting room. So it really helps you brainlessly have your stock for your combo. And the last new card we got was actually the Restander, which just kind of gave you more reach because Miku kind of lacked that before since your deck was just Icy Tails. It's just a generic like pay 1, ditch 2 stand. But it just works really nice because for 5 stock now you can go use your back row, summon an Icy Tail, play an Icy Tail, play a Restander, and then go restand, swing, Icy Tail for 5 stock, which is like actually pretty good as a finisher. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, this deck in the end though is still just you slam your pants triggers over and over and over. This is probably one of the best decks at slamming, besides like obviously the Yotsuba, which is 8-bar. But this deck doesn't have like a ceiling. It doesn't have as high of a ceiling for its thing, but it's like I think its floor is a bit better because of that. Yeah, I like that this deck is good. It just didn't. It got a lot. It got a lot.
Yeah, 5 stock for your finishing turn is approaching Marine levels of efficiency there.
And like you only have to have 2 cards in your hand because one of them is coming off of your back row. So it's 2 cards and it's 1 3-2, 1 restand in your hand when your combo's on attack salvage.
All right, well, getting into Yotsuba, I'm gonna start out with 8-bar because I feel like this is what most people will play. Dan is the Yotsuba expert. He's played more of this girl than I think anybody that I know. So to tell us about 8-bar and why eventually you decided to not play 8-bar.
Yeah, so I couldn't in good conscience like give a Quints list without also giving the waifu list because I mean this is what the people want, right? The people want the 8-bar list with the flashy combos and it's nice and so what this deck got from the premium booster is essentially a 3k runner that goes to memory if your memory has 2 or less cards in it on reverse. We got a deck bonder and hand 2 stock at level 0. It deck bonds to another new premium booster card, which is pay 1, send it to memory to salvage your level 1 combo. And then also while it's in memory at the start of your turn, you can pay 1 and climax swap between bars because you will always have a bar in your hand at the start of the turn because you will trigger 3 bars every turn. We also got a 2-1 combo, kind of like Miku, but this one pretty much just directly sets you up for level 3. On placement of the same bar as your level 3 combo is on, you're adding the level 3 combo to your hand from your deck, and then blind stocking one. Notably, that card also gets really big on play, 1k for each other. So you're maxing out at like 11k, 12k with a bar. Gives you a little bit of field interaction that you didn't have before. We've also got a tap counter now. You discard, or you play the counter and discard 4 more Yotsubas to tap. So you've got a nice defensive option. The combo can be efficient when it wants to be at level 3. if you neglect to go for the extra burn 2s with the memory effect. But yeah, it gives you a nice little opt-out if you find yourself not able to kill your opponent, but you'd still like to mess up their plays a little bit on their turn. That works pretty well with the event that is also on a backup, because it lets you filter your bars that you've triggered on your turn into Yotsubas that can be discarded for the tap counter. That's kind of a greed monster play, but you can do it, so I figured I'd talk about it. And then the last premium booster card we've added here is the Yotsuba in the Yukata, which is a nice level down on play, and it refunds a stock, I think it's from Waiting Room, with the early play condition of having, I think it's 2 or 3 Yotsubas in memory. I don't know, you'll have it. All your cards go to memory at level 0 now. The reason that I'm not playing this deck is because it kind of fights against itself. You'll notice you're running 2 cards that blind stock. Bars are also blind stocking. And your game plan is memory compression, which means you're going to trigger and blind stock more bars. So I've turned over my stock at the end of a lot of games to find like 4 or 5 blind stocked bars in there. Sometimes it's just really hard to pay them out when you're triggering and blind stocking multiple per turn. And eventually you just get lost in the sauce. But this is definitely most true to the how Bushiroad wants you to play the deck version of the deck.
And then that led you to this thing, this stock
Yeah.
soul deck.
So, somebody in Vegas plays this deck, and I wholesale stole that man's list and have been iterating on it. This is a lot more familiar to enjoyers of Set 1 Quints, where you kind of played them all together. A lot of Yotsuba's cards are waifu locked, but in ways that let you play around them pretty consistently. So we've tailored the list here to play into like what we're doing best, which is Ramorous and slamming climaxes every turn. Like I mentioned, you'll have plenty of bars, so you can slam those or swap them into stock souls. Builds up stock a lot more consistently and lets you hit those high highs with the finisher, where you're potentially fielding 2 finishers and using both burn 2s on both of them that turn, maybe with an Icy Tail thrown in there. You're building a lot of value on Clean Cut in the early game, using the level 0 Yotsuba combo and the Brainstorm combo, so you got 2 nice level 0 combos to get good Clean Cut value off of. And in the end, as long as you're fielding one of the 2 level 0 memory cards on the first turn, you're probably going to Ramorous every turn past level 1 anyway, so you'll hit that memory condition no problem. The reason why I wanted to make sure we showed off the bar list too is we are playing notably less premium booster cards in this list than the 8 bar list. We're playing the level 2 combo that I talked about before, and also this new level 0 combo that lets you sacrifice the level 3 bar at the start of your Encore step to salvage. So it kind of lets you go net neutral for slamming bars, which is really good in combination with things like the Ichika Brainstorm or the on reverse Blind Stalker, as long as you have a climax out. So overall, this kind of just lets you maximize what you want to do with the 3-2 at the end of the game a little bit better by more consistently building up a nice pile of stocks so that you can actually sometimes resolve like 2 or 3 of them.
Is that the L card with them all on it? Is that that the L card?
It is.
That
It
is
the L
so
card.
funny. That is so funny. You got to get the
You
foils.
get to own the funniest SR in the
Yeah,
game.
that card is fucking hilarious. But yeah,
I'm good.
I mean,
I'm not buying foils for this deck. I have the other deck, Max Rarity in Japan.
oh,
Dan,
okay.
Dan, it's like $2.
It's the most egregiously ugly
It
White
has
Shorts
the
card
text
ever.
box is an L.
Yeah, there's also negative cost associated with touching those cards with my hands, so I'm good.
That is true. they are.
Also,
they're
I
pretty
just think if
gross.
this deck plays the stock swap or the climax swap Itsuki instead of the Ichika, because
It's on color. Yeah, I forgot
it's
to
on
mention
color.
that.
it's not the best.
More value here than in her own deck. Very
Stuff
funny.
like that.
Yeah, the Itsuki.
It's so true.
Poor
but
Itsuki.
Itsuki
Could've
did
used
not
some-
need Ichika Brainstorm. Okay, actually, I played Ichika Brainstorm quite a lot in Itsuki. It comes up for sure. It'd be obviously like hand to stock, hand, etc. Doesn't always match up.
All right, well, I think that is all the Quints decks here. Just a quick one here to get through all of these new decks. Some of them changed a lot, but most of them, same general idea. A couple of extra cards, but we wanted to give you an idea of how to play them. You can find deck lists for all of them in the description, all going out to Encore Decks. You can grab those lists. Looking forward to more content. I'm going to continue to mess around with more of these like short competitive theory videos when something strikes me. Saw things about like double loss and things about like how to improve, things of that nature. Those were pretty well received, so I'm going to toy around with those when they strike me. But we're going to get back to the deck techs and the set reviews. I think we're just going to jump ahead to things that are coming out soon in terms of set reviews rather than going back. Probably going to cover some stuff. I think we need to cover a Freerun deck on the channel. Probably tap Jason for that since he's the number one Freerun shill. We can talk about both flavors of 8 pants, whichever one you decide to play. That'll probably for English. Yeah, it makes the most sense. Probably get that one out there and then move forward with upcoming stuff that's coming out. And so I already did like Macross and things of that nature. So look forward to those. Jason, Dan, any shout outs?
Not really. We have our locals. I love Jersey locals.
New Jersey strong. New Jersey strong together.
Yeah, very fun every time I'm there.
Obligatory.
Love going to y'all's locals. All right, with that, Pittsburgh White Shorts signing off, and we will see you all in the next one.